on. So, good morning. Welcome to Live from the Office with Pastor Mark, and I got my friend here, Pastor Damon from Waukesha Community Church. And when do you do your lives?
I do
or
mine
your
on
broadcasts?
I do
Tuesday?
yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30,
Okay.
and we're finishing up Revelation this week, and then I'm thinking about maybe doing some of the stuff in Daniel, but I try to hit a book whenever I
Cool.
go through it.
So if you're listening there, check out Pastor Damon's broadcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30, and check out the Revelation study they're doing. And also, Pastor Ralph was on this morning with his broadcast, usually on every day at 9:30. So we're gonna get back in the groove here. And one of the things that I think I've been wrestling with lately is just staying on track with my own personal quiet time
Yeah,
and spending that time alone, because we're in the Bible all the time. We do it for sermons,
yeah,
we do it for Bible studies, but for that own personal walk, sometimes can get kind of swept under the rug. And so,
yeah,
for me, one of the things I'm starting to do right now, which I actually just started this morning, is just a great way to get restarted. Good morning, Miss Oli. Good to see you. Um, to get started this morning is doing Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, because the cool thing about Proverbs is there's one for each day of the month. And so if you ever need something to get your personal time with the Lord restarted, jump started, get into Proverbs. It's a great book, and it's got a lot of wisdom, and it gets you thinking about what you are, how you're walking with the Lord. So, you have any thoughts on that?
yeah. I mean, I think Proverbs is a great way to do it. I have a lot of friends that will do a Proverbs a day along with everything else they do. It's a great way just to attain wisdom.
Yeah,
Doing it, obviously you go through it by the month. And it's just something to add to it to help you out, gain wisdom. The important thing is the wisdom that it provides for
yeah, absolutely,
you.
absolutely. So I'm reading out of the is it CSB,
Yes.
the Christian Standard Bible today, and this has been one I usually study in for my evening Bible studies. It's a good translation. So we're gonna go Proverbs chapter 6, and I'll just read through it, and then we'll kind of talk back and forth through it. And if you guys have any thoughts or comments, throw them up there. We'd love to hear from you and see what your thoughts are as well. So Proverbs 6, my son, if you have put up security for your neighbor or entered into an agreement with a stranger, you have been snared by the words of your mouth, trapped by the words of your mouth. Do this then, my son, and free yourself, for you have put yourself in your neighbor's power. Go, humble yourself and plead with your neighbor. Don't give sleep to your eyes or slumber to your eyelids. Escape like a gazelle from a hunter, like a bird from the hunter's trap. Go to the ant, you slacker. Observe its ways and become wise. Without leader, administrator, or ruler, it prepares its provisions in summer. It gathers its food during harvest. How long will you stay in bed, you slacker? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the arms to rest, and your poverty will come like a robber, your need like a bandit. A worthless person, a wicked man, goes around speaking dishonestly, winking his eyes, signaling with his feet, and gesturing with his fingers. He always plots evil with perversity in his heart. He stirs up trouble. Therefore, calamity will strike him suddenly. He will be shattered instantly, beyond recovery. The Lord hates 6 things. In fact, 7 are detestable to him: arrogant eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that plots wicked schemes, feet eager to run to evil, a lying witness who gives false testimony, and one who stirs up trouble among brothers. My son, keep your father's commands, and do not reject your mother's teaching. Always bind them to your heart. Tie them around your neck. When you walk here and there, they will guide you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. When you wake up, they will talk to you. For a command is a lamp, teaching is a light, and corrective discipline is the way to life. They will protect you from an evil woman, from the flattering tongue of a wayward woman. Don't lust in your heart for her beauty, or let her captivate you with her eyelashes. For a prostitute's fee is only a loaf of bread, but the wife of another man goes after precious life. Can a man embrace fire and his clothes not be burned? Can a man walk on burning coals without scorching his feet? So it is with the one who sleeps with another man's wife. No one who touches her will go unpunished. People, don't despise the thief if he steals to satisfy himself when he is hungry. Still, if caught, he must pay 7 times as much. He must give up all the wealth of his house. The one who commits adultery lacks sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. He will get a beating and dishonor, and his disgrace will never be removed. For jealousy enrages a husband, and he will show no mercy. When he takes revenge, he will not be appeased by anything or be persuaded by lavish bribes. Wow, there's a lot packed into that.
Yeah, a lot of different sections in there.
Man,
Sure.
yeah. So it hits on financial, what does it say? It says financial entanglements, laziness.
Mm,
The malicious man talks about what God hates. And then the biggest, longest one is the warning against adultery. So what are some ones? I mean, I can start off if you want. Um, but anything pop out at you as I was reading through
Well,
that?
I mean, when you deal with Proverbs there, it's just you just got to get used to the diversity in them because they're
Yeah.
just a gathering of sayings. But just going through it, the way it went, I looked at it, at the very beginning, being
Hmm.
entangled with somebody else. You're basically committing yourself to your neighbors,
Yeah.
and it's a warning against that because once you do that, you're not free to
Right.
make your own decisions at that point.
Right.
And to me, when I look at it, I was like, it's Scott saying, "Run away, run away."
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, and you don't, and I think it reminds me of when he talks about too, when he says, the borrower is slave to the lender. You don't want to be. That's why, I mean, it makes me, of course, that makes me think of the Dave Ramsey thing, because he's like, don't be in debt, don't get into any kind of debt, because you are enslaved to whoever you're borrowing from. I mean, like 90% of us are enslaved to the lending companies or the banks
Yeah.
because we borrowed money, and everybody is always trying to pay off that debt.
But even creating a business with somebody that
Hmm.
you're not yoked with, like Dave Ramsey would say,
Right.
don't do that either. And that seems like that's what he's saying here is you're making a commitment with your neighbor, and your very words that you have used to make this agreement have ensnared you into this life that you will find not fulfilling and that you're going to need to be set free from. So go and beg to get out of this contract.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. The second big idea that this talks about is laziness, and it says, and I love how he says, "Go to the ant, you slacker." And I love this version because like I don't think I've ever heard "you slacker."
Yeah.
You know, it makes
Make me
me
think of
that.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, slackers. You know, and so, but the other thing is, it made me think about, and this weekend, this past weekend, we had my in-laws. They came down to Battle Creek, and we got hotel rooms and stuff. And one of the cartoons that the kids were watching was this old 1930s Disney cartoon, and it was called The Grasshopper and the Ants.
Oh.
And it was this cartoon about this grasshopper who just went around, just having a good old time, hanging out. And his song at the beginning was, "The world owes me a living," and then he starts playing his fiddle and da 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 da. And but then he's watching all these ants doing all this work, and he's like, "Why are you wasting your time doing all that?" Well, they were preparing for winter, and so then he gets to wintertime and he's freezing, and he quickly changes his tune, and he goes knocking on the door, and they let him in. They warm him up, and his
They didn't
tune,
need him, did they?
No, they didn't need him, but she said, if you're gonna, or the queen of the ants said, if you're gonna stay with us, you need to work, do something. So she handed him his fiddle, and she tells him to play, and his tune changed to "I owe the world a living," and here I am. And so he's using his gifts to benefit others. And so that was kind of the whole moral of the story, watching that cartoon. And that's one I used to watch when I was a kid. I grew up on Disney Channel, so but it's the same idea though. When he's saying, when will you get up from your sleep, a little slumber, the folding of the arms to rest, and your poverty will come like a robber, your need like a bandit. And when we have just this whole attitude of laziness and wanting to expect everybody to do everything for us, I think we need to be able to break free, or our society needs to break free of that. And in some ways, I hate the term "pull yourself up by your own bootstraps," because we know that Scripture doesn't really teach us that. It's we need to rely on God, but He gives us the strength and the motivation to do what is right.
Yeah. And if you look at it, the first one, he's bound by his word to his neighbor. Now he's bound by his work ethic to, his lifestyle. And, Proverbs is full of advice concerning the lazy people. It talks about, if you're unwilling to work, you don't deserve to eat. Or it describes a lazy person as the one that is laying on the bed and he's rolling over. It's like the hinge on a door. He just flips over.
Yeah.
And the concept is, God has created us. When He created Adam and Eve, He didn't create Adam just to sit all day.
Right.
He created them to work because if you want to prosper, you got to do work.
Right.
It just doesn't come to you. And, in the wintertime when it's all bad, it's the people that have worked, that have stored, and that's the principle there too of storing up and saving is in effect too, so that you'll have on a winter's day or rainy day.
Yep. So then they talk about the malicious man, and it's interesting. The verse 12, it says, "A worthless person, a wicked man, goes around speaking dishonestly, winking his eye, signaling with his feet, and gesturing with his fingers." It makes me just think of a shifty person. A
used car salesman.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, careful. We might have used car salesmen in our. You never know. But that kind of I'm out to make the big buck and try and fool people, trick people, be under it. It made me think of like gambling. Like a gambler. Because he's always kind of like, all right, I'm looking at his hand, or maybe he's got that card shoved up his sleeve, and that was the image that came to my mind when I first read that.
I was thinking,
not that all gamblers do that. I'm just saying.
No, I've seen plenty of gambler shows. My wife, my kids were watching Matilda this past weekend. It made me think of Danny DeVito and the used car salesman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Shifty didn't care for his daughter, sold cars, saying anything he could to make them buy the cars. And I mean, he was very malicious with his intent. He was
Yeah.
all about the money. But the entire thing that I read, I kept thinking,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And Danny DeVito can play a good shifty character. And just about anything he's done, he's really good at that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, and I think a word that you said just a moment ago was it's about the intent.
Yeah.
Because we're not saying that all car salesmen are bad people. We're saying it's the intent in which you are doing something. What is your intent? Is it only to make a buck, or is it to help benefit somebody? Because the shifty car salesman whole persona comes from people who have sold you a junker car for a serious amount of money.
You think of the slick hair guy back with the mustache.
Yeah.
He's doing it, but
who was it? You ever see True Lies?
Oh, True Lies. No, I don't think I've seen
No?
that one. I'm thinking of Cadillac Man with Robin Williams.
Cadillac Man, there's one, yes.
But these people, I don't begrudge a car salesman at all, because they've got to make a living for their family.
Absolutely.
It's just when they lie to you to do it to get the gain.
Yep. I mean, you could say that. Yeah. I mean,
it could be in anything, though.
Yeah, it really can. And so that's I think the point that's coming through is, what is our intent? Why do we do the things that we do? Is it to benefit others or to only benefit ourselves? And that's, I think, where that's coming from. So
yeah. And he talked about plotting evil and trying to stir up trouble. So
yep. And you can find that anywhere. So then we get into what the Lord hates. Now we think, what? God, God's all loving and caring. But there are things that God really despises. He says 6 things. In fact, and then he takes it and adds another one. In fact, 7 are detestable to him: arrogant eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that plots wicked schemes, feet eager to run to evil, a lying witness who gives false testimony, and one who stirs up trouble among brothers. These are all things that God literally despises, and that we have to guard against, because these are all aspects of part of the human nature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to fall into some of these things, especially like with arrogant eyes. I mean, that kind of hits on some of the stuff that we've been dealing with as a society lately, is people looking down on others just based on differences.
Yeah.
And we have to, and it makes me think of the example that Jesus led with. He says, I didn't come in this world to be served. I came into this world to serve. Yeah. And that whole idea in itself is countercultural. Then, even now, I mean, we see a lot more of it now.
Yeah.
But it's still, by nature, people are out to serve themselves.
Well, I mean, it's even in James where he talks about, and this is one of my big things, is the arrogant eyes. You see James hitting that right on the head when he talks about, you like to position the rich people up front and put the poor people in the back. And the idea that, because somebody's social class, they're different than you, that they're not as good as you are.
Yeah.
It's just, it's absurd and beyond me. God created everyone. He created them all in his image. And just because you might have more money doesn't necessarily mean you're any better than that person. You might have made better decisions in your life, or you might have had things happen in your life that God bless you more. But God also in James talks about the poor being more blessed, because the poor people, they find salvation in God easier than the rich.
Right.
And so it's not that the rich can't, but but he uses these distinct terms, and you see the arrogancy of the people that have versus them that don't have, and James is trying to say, nah.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. One of my favorite books, by the way. I love the book of James just because it's practical Christianity at its best.
Yeah.
And that's good. Oh, let's see what else pops out of here. Have we got any comments here to see if anybody's really no? We'll say good morning to Miss Anita and Lori Hill, and we said hello, Miss Oli. Glad you guys have all joined us this morning. This has been a good discussion in Proverbs, and the last section in this chapter is the longest one, and it really gives strong warning against adultery. And this is going to really speak to what Damon was talking about here a minute ago, the diversity in just one proverb. I mean, it seems like he picks kind of random topics where it's like, okay, we're talking about financial stuff, then we're talking about laziness, then malicious people, and then what God hates. But then it kind of leads into this whole thought of what God thinks of adultery. And as I looked through it, as we read through it, there's a lot that pops out at me. And the whole image of fire when he's talking. Let's look at verse 20. Oh, let's start at 25, and he says, "Don't lust in your heart for her beauty, or let her captivate you with her eyelashes." I mean, those are things, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be a prostitute. It could be someone you see on TV. It could be someone you walking down the street.
It could be somebody posting on Facebook.
On Facebook, absolutely. And it is so easy for, and I say this especially towards men, because men are visually stimulated. Sorry, that's just the truth. We have to guard against that. And I had some friends in college, and these guys were older than me. They were kind of like mentors. And he said the biggest struggle is it's not appreciating the beauty of another person. That's one thing. But it's when you go back for that second look is when it becomes the lustful act within your heart. And Jesus, obviously, he tells us, if you lust after a woman in your heart, you've already committed adultery with her. And so he takes that up a notch. So then, verse 26, he says, "For a prostitute's fee is only a loaf of bread, but the wife of another man goes after a precious life." That really hit hard. Just to think about what those implications are. When I mean, they're saying, yeah, you're out. A lot of times, guys are going out for cheap thrills, but then when and that's bad. That's bad altogether too. But also when if you sleep with another man's wife, you are destroying so many relationships on so many levels that this is why these things are so detestable to God. Because you're sinning against you're sinning against God. You're sinning against your own body. You're sinning against the body of another man's wife. You're sinning against, your family. You're breaking up your family. You're breaking up the other person's family. That's why, and we live right now in a society where sex is just a casual thing that's not like the holiness of it. People have lost desperately.
Well, they don't understand it, and that's the problem. They look at it as, God said in the garden, to be fruitful and multiply. Well, that was a command. This is how you're going to procreate, and in that, He created it to be stimulating and fun, so that you will actually go out and procreate and to procreate the earth, and He made it for enjoyment. But we live in a society, and it has been like this before in different societies, and it is again. But where it is not the command, but the pleasure that has become the object of
Yes.
desire.
Yep.
And so when you look at it like that and you look into this, it's like what you said. You're not just destroying your life, you're destroying a woman's life, and she's just as much as part
Mhm.
of the problem.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But you're destroying her children. You're destroying her husband.
Mhm.
You're destroying, if you have them, your family, your kids. And you're destroying the name of Jesus Christ if you are a believer. If you're a believer and you do these things, you're just messed up.
Yeah.
You're messing everything up, and I think that's the point. You see that later in Proverbs. I think it's 7 or 8. Where the lady that's
Oh, the one who's calling out from her house.
calling out
Yeah.
from her house, and it's the same concept that prostitute. She's only going to cost you a